is not that good, which sometimes it's not that great. So let's get started with our core team updates. I think maybe I'll pass it off to Fintan first to give the update from the Link team.
Sure thing. Let me present. Okay. Oh, sorry, there's a train.
Is that your?
Yeah.
Train sounds like it's right outside of your door.
Let me just close the door. Sorry. Okay, apologies. This one's Radicle Link update. I'll start off with collaboration objects. So Alex has put in, or has asked for like final review on the RFC. So there's been some more comments on that, but it's looking in really good shape and it's exciting. He's also defined a spec on which keywords are available to use as part of JSON schema and validation that work well with auto merge. And so that's mentioned in the RFC itself. And the implementation itself, he's been working on in the background, kind of getting it ready and seeing how viable it is in comparison with the RFC, and that'll be primed for review soon. On my side, there's the CLI stuff, and so the RFC got merged. I don't know if I think that got merged pretty much after the last community call. In a similar way, I've been working on some PRs that have been implementing that RFC. So I've been working on RAD profile, which will be like profile and key management, and RAD identities, which will be the identity management portion of the work. And in the background, as usual, there's been some yaks to shave, and I'll mention that a little bit more in a second. On the replication side, we've had Kim organize the Radicle Link house with Once You Pop, You Can't Stop. So we've been separating out a bunch of crates into like more standalone pieces. This will be good for compile time and modularity in general. And coming soon will be his implementation of replication version 3, third time's a charm. And then, yeah, as I said, there's been lots of yaks to shave. So we've been having a lot of open source contributions. So Kim has contributed to Git proper, allowing a namespace support in WANT-ref. I have been looking at Thrush and making that more generic so that we can depend on it in our project, and allows us to like work with SSH agents, so we don't have to enter our passwords all the time. In libgit, Alex has implemented the respecting of force flags. Turned out that force flags were just ignored completely and didn't do what you would expect them to do, which resulted in some strange bugs that we had to hunt down a while back. And as mentioned before, Alex has also been working on implementing some spec compliant updates in the JSON schema Rust library. And that is it. I will pass it back to you. Or questions.
Yeah, any questions for Fintan? No?
That's what I like to hear. Oh, no. Yeah, Sebastian.
The libgit contribution, the force flags, was that related to pushing with force or something like that, or creating text with force?
It was due to ref specs, and so whenever we would fetch, we would say, I think we had force flags set to false, but these were ignored, so we would get forceful overrides with commits, and essentially this was causing like a race condition where a peer would like go to a new state but then get reverted back to the old state by accident, and so these like commits would disappear. It was not fun. No problem.
I was thinking soon you can hunt down bugs in Gitoxide, maybe, more pleasant.
Yeah, at least it's in Rust. I saw the C code and I was like, but Alex he stepped up to the plate. And I thank him for that.
Cool. Awesome. We'll pass it off to Upstream team next. I think Rudolfs will be taking over.
Cool. Let me share my screen. So, does this work? Yeah. So, hi everyone. What have we been up to last month? So yeah, we shipped already navigating to somebody else's profile in 0210. And then we were working on integrating the ENS name registration. And that's very, very close to being done. We just need to fix a couple final bugs. And then we have the complete flow where you can register an ENS name and then update the metadata and then also link it to an org. It's going to be in one flow. Then we also polished orgs. We ran into some rate limiting on Infura, and we had to implement a little bit of caching and a couple of workarounds. And yeah, we also updated the icon so that when you connect with your mobile wallet, and you can see the icon. And we added the rad balance to the wallet as well. Then Thomas was also working on investigating the reliability issues with the protocol. A lot of issues got created on Radicle Link, and I think it's still inconclusive how this is going to be fixed, but yeah, we're on it. Then also we worked on some tech debt and added a bunch of tests for Ethereum features, and also we migrated some infrastructure from Monadic, and yeah, lastly, more tech debt stuff. Fixed flaky tests, made all the identifiers look consistently across the app, and upgraded some dependencies. That's all from us.
Any questions for Upstream or any demos?
No demos so far.
No demos this month.
This month. Next month.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But I think we'll have the ENS flow merged soon, and it's probably going to be released also quite soon. So
orgs will soon be able to have names.
Yeah, people will be able to try it out themselves.
Nice. Cool. Any questions? Nope. Okay, awesome. I'll pass it off to you, Alexis.
Sure. Let me share. So, okay. You're presenting your screen. All right, so the Alklines team
So we've been working on a couple of things. For one, we landed Wallet Connect support, and it's been working fairly well. It's live. There's a couple of things yet to be done on on App Radicle Network, but yeah, it's been working quite well. In terms of source browsing, this is kind of the big thing we've been working on that is nearing completion. Mainly the org seed nodes were the last blocker, and now they've been Dockerized, and we're looking into we're also deploying these Docker images so that it's as easy as possible for other teams or DAOs to deploy their own nodes. And there was one last issue, which was with the usage of the graph, and we've migrated to an event-based system so that there's only queries when there's actually a change in the anchored projects. There is already one team that is using the org nodes outside of our internal teams. That's DXDAO. So I can actually maybe quickly show that here. So basically, they have deployed their own node, and they have anchored their one of their projects here, and so we're able to browse them on the web now. That's really cool. And so this is directly getting all of the project source code and data is fetched directly from their own node, and it works really well. So hopefully we're going to be moving more orgs to the org node setup and removing a little bit of the load from the community seed node, aka Sprout, and also migrating our internal teams. One thing this will also entail is potentially using the org seed ID in Upstream as your seed node. So essentially this guy here, because this means it'll essentially when you push a project, it will actually replicate it to your own node, not just to the Sprout seed node. So that's going to be pretty important. I'm just going to go back to my little to-do thingy, a little list. Okie doke. So yeah, that's the org node stuff. I've also been working on some CLI commands that are shaping up quite nicely. Unfortunately, I hit a bit of a snag, so I can't demo it. But the main thing really is the ability to anchor from the command line, and the tool is called Rad Anchor. And so essentially, you'll be able to anchor a project at a given hash under an org, and you'll have Ledger support, so Ledger Nano, and key store if you want to sort of do this non-interactively. One of the ideas was to be able to do this from a CI job, so that you could do that on push, basically. And then the last thing is this is more in the research phase, something we're looking into. Sebastian is doing this with his GPG signature linking, which is essentially the ability to link sign Git commits to Radicle identities and Ethereum identities or addresses. So this still needs a bunch of research, but it's a pretty promising area. So that's it for us.
Thanks. Any questions for Alexis?
Do you plan on linking the GPG keys into like the person document?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think we might do it in a couple of places. The person document is definitely a good idea, depending on how that document is replicated. the part of the work is just going to be creating a format for the proof. So essentially a double signature, in a sense, like a signature from with your GPG key of your Radicle address and a signature the other way, and then having a format for that that can be published somewhere. And then, yeah, we could include that in the person document, maybe on another storage network online, yeah, and just have it essentially readable by any client that wants to identify or authenticate a commit. Another question, Sebastian seems to have a raised hand.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering if the browser repository representation, is this generated entirely server-side, or does it run some WASM that is ultimately boiling down to some Rust there?
You're talking about the source browsing.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, so the way it works is fairly simple. There's the replicating node, which just it's like a regular seed node sort of, and it just replicates the projects into the local monorepo, which has all of the projects. And then there's a little HTTP API written in Rust. So it's a JSON HTTP API that exposes all of the. Maybe I can show you very quickly. That exposes essentially paths like this, where you have so the org actually doesn't. This is not part of the API. You'll just have something like this one project and then a rad thing, and then when you're browsing, you'll have a specific commit and a file. And so the API understands these kinds of queries.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Does that make
It's
sense?
interesting. Yes. It's interesting that there's a big monorepo that handles multiple repositories at the same time.
Yeah, so that's the design of Radicle Link, and it's actually quite easy to use from. I mean, now that we have libraries to query it, but yeah, it's you essentially create a kind of subview of the full Git tree using the namespacing feature of Git, and then it's kind of as if you had a sort of isolated Git repository, but really it's within another Git repository.
Yes, but it's just it's all the forks of the single repository that are in that monorepo, right? Or is it really
no? It is
unrelated
multiple.
repositories?
Yeah. It's unrelated. Like it's completely separate disjoint projects with their own history, their own root commit, and everything. And they're all namespaced with a Git feature called namespaces, basically.
Oh yeah, true. Makes sense. All the objects, Git doesn't care about them. It's just an object database. And as long as you can keep track of it with references, you can have any amount of namespaces. And if you also put the repository into the namespace somewhere, along with the forks, whatever you figure out there, then this is how you keep track of things.
Yeah, it's a very elaborate hierarchical scheme.
Yeah. Git ref on crates.io supports namespaces. I added this because I saw it in your code. So I couldn't, I was about to forget it, but no way.
No.
There's on top of that, there's a document called Identity Resolution in Radicle Link for more information on that. FYI.
Thanks a lot. I take that note.
Yep. All right.
Cool. Any other questions? No? I'm sure the DXDAO's crew is excited to see Omen and their org officially on board. I'm excited for us to write up a blog post and present that to both of our communities, because I think it's really cool what they're doing, and I think a lot of projects will follow suit as well. Awesome. Moving on, I'll pass it off to Andrew, who will give an update for Radicle funding.
Thanks, Abbey. Hey, everyone. This is Andrew here giving an update for Radicle funding. Let me see if I can present. Cool. Okay. So let's see. I'm realizing I should have probably had like an organizing slide, but we'll just jump around to a few things. So there's been a lot happening with Radicle funding. The first thing is that we've kind of moved a lot of our work into the open. So just showing we have, or maybe all of our work, we have this community tokens channel in Discord where we're kind of chatting, providing updates. So anyone can chime in here, and we've gotten some great kind of feedback and engagement from people in the community. So if you haven't yet and you're interested, come find us there to chat about what we're working on. And then similarly in the Radicle.community, we've started kind of posting higher level updates there and also engaging, trying to get more feedback and thoughts from everyone in the community. So this was our first post, kind of a high level overview of what we're looking to do with the community tokens. And we're going to do another one soon about kind of why we think NFTs, a bit more of the philosophy of why we think NFTs are a good solution for community tokens as kind of a building block or substrate. Also on the design side, Everett has been making a lot of progress. We've got some great wireframes that we'd love to get more feedback on, and I won't go through all of them here, but this is in Figma. You can find a link to all of them if you go to that community post in radicle.community. It's right close to the top here. You can click through and it'll pop open this Figma, and we've really, Everett has really built out a lot of what we expect this to look like on the wireframe side. Additionally, I don't have a slide to show it right offhand, but we've done, we're making some good progress on thinking about kind of some visual aspects of the NFTs themselves, how that would look, and what they would look like visually. So that's, I'd say stay tuned for more updates on that soon. That's going to be really cool. And then over on the code side, Manuel and Igor have been working on this. We've actually migrated the old, I think it's called the Pools project from Radicle Dev into its own repo, Radicle Streaming, and starting to develop that more here. So if you're interested, you can follow along there. And I think there's going to be more. There's been some discussion about this on the Discord, and there's going to be more discussion. So that'll be kind of exciting to see that accelerate and take shape. And then the last thing I want to mention is just we've been doing a bunch of I don't have links to these, or I won't jump all the way into these, but we've been doing kind of some more just kind of drilling into more of the details around the design and how certain parts will work. So there's additional documents around that are being linked in the Discord. So if you're interested in that, Igor has shared a document around how drips will look in code. As I said, there's some discussion of like why NFTs are good. We have some why we think NFTs make sense. And then we've done some, I think there's another doc that I shared about the kinds of access that we envision projects being able to give to supporters. And that'll be really exciting, once we get some of the basic building blocks built. We'll start to see the kinds of say incentives or value that project maintainers can give to people who choose to support the project through contributions, and I think that'll really help motivate the conversation. So yeah, I think that's it. That's it from me. But yeah, lots of exciting stuff happening. So thank you. I'll probably pass it back or open it up to questions.
Anybody have any questions? No? I think that I don't have a question, but just like a thought, I think it would be really cool to get the funding team to do I guess, when was it, Alexi? 2 weeks ago, we did this orgs hangout where Alexi and I just kind of like demoed some of the stuff with the web client, and we live streamed it, and then we put it on YouTube. I think it'd be super cool for the funding team to kind of do something as well, since we also have new funding team members as we have this whole team forming. I think it'd be super cool, and I'm happy to help support you guys get like a little Twitch hangout going where you can kind of like riff on some cool funding ideas. You can have people from the community chime in, maybe even riff on some ideas with you, because I know that we have like a lot of like activity in the forums on that. So maybe that would be a cool thing to do sometime this month before the next community call.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm. Alexi, you want to go?
Yeah, just a question. Have you been thinking about how this is going to be implemented as an app? Like, so the front end, where is that going to live? How's that going to work?
Yeah, good question. So, so I think, let me see. I think the idea would be that in terms of some of the kind of like project setup and configuration stuff, that would probably be hosted by Radicle, sort of initially at least, maybe similar to how it's being done today for like orgs. For like creating an org, you would similarly be able to create a project and then configure, you know, everything related to that. But that's just a thin client being hosted on the web that obviously goes to the Ethereum blockchain. And then in terms of, I guess some of the other, I mean, one of the nice things about working with NFTs is that you get a lot of this kind of tooling for free. So, you know, to the extent that, you know, everything related to, I guess, to be clear, I guess what I mean is like the supporter memberships are NFTs. So like if a project creates a community token, which is like, you know, pay 10 DAI a month and subscribe to our project or become a member of our project, then community members for that project can buy one of those NFT tokens. Now they're a member, a supporter, and that NFT can unlock access to all sorts of different things. But I guess a lot of what they might be able to do with that NFT would also be just, or ways that they would be able to interact with that NFT would be through normal NFT tooling. So like the most simple example of that would be just like they can see it in any you know, NFT kind of browser tool that they might have. But then there's kind of more interesting examples of how that might look. There's a couple. This is discussed in a few of the documents that I mentioned that are linked off the Discord. But there are tools called, I think there's one called like, or there are projects called like Collab.land is one that's done this, and I think there's another one called I might be getting it wrong, but it's like Coinvice or something. But projects are starting to build tools that will allow NFTs to unlock access to different types of community tools. So like Discord and Telegram. So we're hoping to use either one of those tools or something related to allow, you know, you get this NFT token, you're a member now of a project, and now maybe you can access kind of a members only channel in the Discord for the project, just sort of automatically, something like that. So to bring it all the way back around, Alexi, I think one of the advantages of using NFTs is it could kind of unlock access to many different types of apps that might allow you to engage with the project, including probably some that we can't even foresee. But, you know, Discord and Telegram are sort of examples that we've looked at so far, along with just like general NFT tools. So I think those are kind of our initial thoughts, but there could be many more types of apps in the future.
Cool. Thanks.
For sure.
This reminds me that we should revisit the conversation about what little features we want to build into the web client, Alexi, like, and how maybe drips can be, you know, built in there into the current experiences that we have in Upstream and in the web client.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm wondering. Like maybe there's something we can integrate in the existing web client.
Yeah, because we were thinking, Andrew, about, you know, just like how can you make a web client more sticky and more engaging when someone is going there to view, manage, or share their orgs, and how can you introduce funding features into the current experiences to start, you know, just getting people more kind of not comfortable, but more engaged with the Radicle funding experiences, and you know what that could be in the short term as we build up to some of the bigger features and experiences like community, NFTs, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. We should probably sync up on that at some point just to you know, see how they're going to come together.
Nice. Cool. Any other questions for Radicle funding? Nope. cool. Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'll close out the core team updates with just like a quick community team update, and then we'll pass it off to Sebastian. I'll keep this brief. I will share my screen instead of doing like a Notion update today. I kind of wanted to do like a tab update because I really wanted to highlight some of the awesome stuff that's happening on the community side of things regarding governance. So as everybody knows, like governance takes place, most governance discussions take place on our community forum or on our Discord in the governance category. I can't sign into Discord here because this is, I don't have it like logged in, but we have a governance working group that we actually just launched. I think now Larry's on the call as well. Larry and Derek from Reverie are kind of leading the charge on our working group. But we just launched this about 2 weeks now, which is, I think I've talked about this before in the community call, but the Radical Governance Working Group is a community formed and led group to discuss and steward all things radical governance. And so this group's meeting once a month to discuss different things that are happening in Radical's governance process, including strategy, proposal creation, and just in general, cultivating discussion around radical governance and how we can move it forward. So I think I've already introduced Larry and Derek and Jenny on the last call, but this post is also where you can see their introductions and kind of learn more about the Radical Governance Working Group. So we had our first call, I guess it's 2 weeks ago now. So they're kind of like off. So we have the community call, and then 2 weeks later we have the Radical Governance Working Group, and then so we switch off. So now we kind of have like bi-weekly community calls. And it was really great. They happen on Discord. So if you haven't been get the invitation, just like kind of check out the working group. That's kind of where we have all this discussion around there. But so the start of this governance working group is really cool because it also started and triggered a lot of discussion around the Radical Treasury. So as everybody knows, the Radical Treasury is a community-owned and governed pool of assets that are, you know, the prime directive is to fund the Radical ecosystem. And so it's really exciting to start the conversation around what this means for the Radical project and how we can start activating this Radical Treasury and strategizing around its activation to fund and grow the Radical ecosystem. So Derek and Larry took a first stab at this Treasury framework. I don't think that this was pushed. I think this was pushed probably the week after the last community call. So if you haven't read through it, I'd highly recommend. It's super cool, and it starts really diving into basically like what this Treasury can do for the Radical ecosystem and how we can start deploying it. Using a lot of the documentation that we've put out regarding, like, you know, the goals of the Radical project, the role of the Radical Foundation, and from Larry and Derek's experience working with different projects in the ecosystem as well. So this is, I just wanted to highlight this post specifically because this is where you can kind of like read where the proposal was, and you can also see how this is turned into a temperature check. So for those who don't know, temperature check is basically like the first step of the governance process when you're trying to move a proposal through. And so the first temperature check that we have is for the creation and design of a Radical Grants program. This is kind of like a great first step to start deploying any community treasury by creating a gateway for people to receive funding for hacking on a project. So this temperature check is really exciting. It starts diving into some of like the key questions around what a Radical Grants program would look like, including budget, application process, priorities. Also, one of the things I'm most excited for is how we can dog food our grants process on Radical itself, which is like going to be really cool, a really cool use case for a Radical org. So I think everybody will be able to see a proposal from me, maybe that I'll publish there for how we can be dog fooding Radical. But yeah, so I wanted to highlight this because a temperature check is like a good place to start getting involved in the conversation, as well as in this Radical Treasury discussion here. So if you have thoughts around, this is to the community and to the core teams, about how you can see the Radical Treasury being activated or deployed, how you think it could also be used to support your own core team's project development, potentially with bounties. You know, bounties and grants kind of go hand in hand. And so if you're a team that wants to get more community members hacking on different problems or or work that you have going on in your core team, like this is a great place to kind of, join the discussion and start suggesting ideas, or even just sharing needs for you as like core maintainers and contributors to the Radicle project. So call to action. I would love everybody to get involved in these discussions. If you have thoughts or ideas. And then just as a note to keep tabs on this Radicle Governance Working Group that's happening and meeting monthly on Discord, where we'll be bringing in like tons of different community members to join the discussion around governance. So I'd obviously love to get you guys all involved. I think that covers kind of everything. Another like work stream that's has formed from this Radicle Governance Working Group is growth. So talking about adoption and how we can start getting people to use Radicle and contribute to Radicle more. And so that will kind of be, I forget where the notes are. I think the notes are actually at the bottom of this. Yeah, here. This is the notes from the first Radicle Governance Working Group. And so you can kind of read more about some of the thoughts that are ruminating around what we should be focusing on. So that's it on governance side. The other note is that I've created a Radicle org for the Radicle community team, which is pretty cool. I have a new community repository, taking a lot of inspiration from the Rust community team. I kind of want to start organizing most of our work publicly, either on Radicle or on Notion, and kind of intertwining them as well. We're also launching a community blog on Mirror, which will be version controlled and managed via this org. With anchoring, so just trying to dog food orgs as well. So you can just replicate this community repository and kind of keep tabs on what's happening on the Radicle community team here on the web client or on Upstream. So yeah, we'll probably be pushing the community blog live ideally this week or next week, which will also be fun. And that will be a place that anybody can kind of contribute content to the Radicle ecosystem. So it'll really kind of break open the box on what we want to be, what content we want to be pushing out. So also would love for all of you guys to get involved with that. Those are kind of like the biggest things. We have a new hire on the horizon who we'll probably be introducing next week as well. But yeah, I think that's where I'll stop because I really want to give Sebastian time to chat about his work. Any questions for me? Any thoughts, comments?
Did you say you're starting a blog?
Yeah. A community blog.
Okay. Does it need to be designed?
No, because it's on Mirror. Mirror is a,
it's on Mirror.
I would call it, yeah, it's a decentralized content posting platform. Yeah, so
heard of it.
No design, but would love some designs for the blog posts specifically, which would be nice. But yeah, I'll do an announcement post when we have the community blog out. But the goal is to get more community members contributing to the content around Radicle instead of just kind of this like centralized, if you will, blog that we have on our website. We'll keep that for product announcements and release announcements, and this one will be kind of like more content and thought leadership, if you will.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome. Anybody else? Nope. You can always reach me on Discord if you have any specific questions as well. Cool. So thanks all the core teams for your updates. That was really awesome. Now we'll have Sebastian, who's our community speaker this week, chat with us about Gitoxide and some of the work that you've done in collaboration with Radicle Link. So I'll pass it off to you, Sebastian.
Thanks very much, Abbey. Before I dive in, let me just say, one day I hope I will be able to do the community management of Gitoxide on Radicle. I don't know if that's the right thing to say on Radicle like you do. I mean, now you're one of the first to pioneer, and I probably won't be very close in these footsteps. But I hope one day I will understand how all this works and comes together, because I think I got the glimpse of the future there when I last checked it, and that was not too long ago. But I also always think, oh my God, all these hashes, really, I can't handle it, which is weird for somebody who works on Git, right? So anyway, let's get started with Gitoxide and how it's possible that somebody thinks they can rewrite Git in Rust, and what kind of person does it take to do that? I think that's worth understanding before we see how Radicle Link actually changed the trajectory of Gitoxide tremendously. and to the better, I might add, because it was Wild West before, I admit that, and I broke things, but not anymore. Okay, sorry, that was a spoiler, I guess, but here we go. I prepared something I can share with you. It's 5 tabs. I hope you see my screen by now. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you can see it.
And all right, what you see here is the Gitoxide front page still on GitHub, but maybe one day, no, not maybe, it will one day be primarily on Radicle, because it should have everything that's needed to do that. But until then, it looks pretty neat already. It has about 50,000 lines of code by now, or 60, depending on the kind of things you count. Some recognition already, and I think it's going very well. Bunch of contributors already, and I couldn't be happier with the project, but it wasn't always like that. And I think the madness you need to even start a project like this, in my case, it developed over more than a decade. And all these tabs go back in time to where it all began. So first of all, there was Subversion, right? And sure, Subversion does things to you, and then comes Git. And Git opened up my mind to the point it was literally, it kind of did something to me. I could never, ever forget about Git and the simplicity that is underneath and the beauty of it. And I always wanted to implement it from that point on. And the first, because back then I was very much into Python, of course, I had to look into Git Python, and I was working in visual effects. So I wanted to do some asset management system in Python, but using Git as backend, which is a terrible idea, especially more than 10 years ago. Super silly, but I was young. I didn't know better. And so I went into Git Python and basically took over the project. So Michael Trier was the original author of this, but it wasn't very much, but very well known in these days. And I then just took it and tried to make it into something that could do asset management. This is how I became the sole maintainer, and I'm that for many years. I mean, there are collaborators who help, and everybody contributes. I don't do anything anymore, but I'm still kind of the, administrator of that, and probably that's not going to change. And for a long time, I was unhappy about this, but now I realized, hey, why not use it as a platform to advertise Gitoxide, and also to have a future in Gitoxide for Git Python by one day just, making it the Python bindings for Gitoxide. Just for you to see what this Git Python really is, it's kind of sick, because 22 million downloads in a month. I don't, when I saw these numbers for the first time, I just couldn't believe it, and I still can't, because it's ridiculous. The top packages here in the Python world, they're way higher, like 4 times higher, the lowest one, but I think it's already pretty substantial and definitely something to build upon. So I'm actually happy to have that as a vessel, and many cool things to come. So from Git Python, I realized, Python is not going to do it with Git and asset management dreams and so on. I mean, you need full control over Git, and how can you do that? So I thought, let's use C++, because I did have a lot of C++ experience back in the days. So in 2011, the last commit. I just archived this today because I realized it wasn't archived yet, but yes, definitely nothing going to happen here. Rewrite Git using C++ 11 facilities, because they started having move constructors, and moving things I thought would be a great idea to prevent, having to use smart pointers everywhere and copying stuff. And templates, right? So I did some work here and just realized it's incredibly hard. It's probably not going to work out. I'm not going to be able to do that with that technology, especially not without sec faulting all the way. So I stopped working on that, and thought a little later, 8 years or so, let's use Go, this new thing, right? That everybody talks about. So not much happened here. I don't know what it can do, probably nearly nothing. But Go wasn't my language, really. It's just not, anyway. Now, 2018. Oh, wait, actually Go came first. Sorry. 2009, 2011. Didn't know that. See, my memory. So 2018 was when Gitoxide was first happening here. So you see it goes all the way back. I mean, when I was more than 4,000 commits here, because I commit everything. Yeah, mid of 2018. And I think that's also when Rust went, no, when was the Rust version 1? Was it 2015 by now? Or anyway, so whenever it happened, I realized Rust was pretty awesome and could finally be the thing that I could use. And I think I went on to some extent and realized, okay, maybe it's not yet working, or I went out of time and stopped it for a while. But then something fantastic happened. And for this, I shall even stop presenting. For dramatic effect, COVID happened. And that was great because I was stuck at my in-laws somewhere in a small town in China where there was lockdown, and it was a literal lockdown. So you couldn't leave the building anymore. It was, fenced and everything. So stay in your apartment. Interestingly, for me, this wasn't really a problem because there was food and everything. And I'm a computer guy, so all I need really is a laptop and time. And I had that. That was cool. So I realized, yeah, why not? I mean, now's the goodest time as ever. Why not do some Gitoxide? And that's when it continued. And that's when I really pushed it forward to the point where it got that recognition on Hacker News at some point. And this is when it all took off to the point where I realized now's the chance to call it my job. So I went to LinkedIn and changed my job title to Gitoxide Core Developer and signaled everyone, okay, it's going to happen because now is the time. And so far, I'm living the dream by doing what apparently is my great passion, implementing Git in the greatest programming language ever. I mean, it makes it possible because otherwise I would definitely not do it because it's just no chance. How would you beat thousands of developers who have, who are better, who have more experience and everything, especially as combined intelligence? You can't do it. But I always used to say, well, it's a bit like 1,000 people running into a war zone with their, hairy, strong chests and machine guns in both hands, Rambo style. But I'm there in a tank. So yeah, I've got the better tool. I don't know if a tank is the best tool for this kind of situation, but let's say, in theory, you can do a lot more things with that. And that's Rust for me. And this is what makes it all possible. And it's also, okay, I mean, maybe digress. What's the time? Okay, 10 minutes in already. So now about how Radicle Link or Kim changed the trajectory of the project and to the better. So let me share my screen. And now I'm a bit off rails. I'll just show a few of the recent changes that happened, and then we can do some Q&A. So Gitoxide for a long time until Radicle came along was really just my pet projects. There have been two major contributors. One out of the blue just committed a whole crate, Git commit graph. And the other one out of the blue contributed Git config, which is kind of a key crate to making the whole thing work. And did that in a way that I could probably not have done better. And I just thought, okay, let's take the whole thing in and make it work. So now kind of a team of 3 working. And I just said, okay, push to main, just don't break anything, no warnings. And that's all the rules there are. And, do what you want. Because for the most part, I don't use git config, don't use git commit graph. Nothing really can break. So free for all. And that worked for a while. And then Kim came along and I didn't prepare that tab and integrated Git protocol, the Git protocol crate into Radicle Link. I don't know if it's actually used already, but the code is there and it can be used. And now there is a downstream dependency, right? And of course, I'm following SEMVer, semantic versioning. So in this case, for pre-release versions, minor versions should change when something breaks. But of course, somehow I messed it up. So I broke the newly merged code just maybe the first week that was in. And all that happened without me noticing. And I realized maybe I've been living in the Wild West for too long. Something has to change. So that something was, I can show that here, it's merged, was the newly added stability guideline, which I think is the recognition of that transition that Gitoxide is now undergoing from Wild West to, okay, let's not break anybody. Also, let's have a plan to bring things into to stability. So what makes a crate stable? When can I go 1.0? Should I even? What's the repercussions of doing that? So I came up with fancy sounding stability tiers, or STs, which is also my initial. I thought that's cool. Let's use that. ST1 is the fancy top level crate that most people are using, and they basically hide the stability tier 2, which is kind of the lower level plumbing crates, which can change more often in breaking ways, but still following semantic versioning. It's more like you probably don't depend on these because they can, in theory, break more often. However, right now we are still in stability tier 3, which is everything is in pre-release mode. Not everything. Because of course you should dog food your stability stuff. I did find some crates following these rules that I pulled out of my nose in a way, or maybe out of my experience, and found some first crates that are now version 1.0, git log and git temp file. And I think all that will help to prevent downstream breakage, and also make it more attractive to maybe people who want to start using it, because it's really getting there. In the last 4 minutes left, maybe one more minute, the highlight that I think kind of brings Gitoxide to the point where people really would want to use it is Git repository. So in Git repository, let's see if I have a recent version here that I can show. Should maybe. In Git repository, there should now be this fantastic easy type. No, not released yet. Anyway, there's now Git repository easy, and that's the easy mode for all the Git stuff. That is giving you an API very similar to what libgit already offers. And can I stop sharing again? And this was the missing link, because using all the plumbing crates is not cool. I mean, you have all the control over memory allocations, and all the nitty-gritty details are exposed to you, and you can use that to squeeze out some percentages of performance. But most people don't need that, and most people don't want it. They just want to find the head ref and get the commit that it points to, and then traverse the history and not deal with the caches that are underneath, and buffers and pack caches and whatnot, object database caches. And Git repository easy is finally that abstraction that takes away the complexity for those who want to, and without completely hiding it. And it's, I think, the next level. It's dog-fooded already in some tools that Gitoxide uses to do its own releases, like Cargo Smart Release that was recently published to solve problems I had. And more tools in the Gitoxide workspace are gonna use Git repository to give it more and more API surface and make it more and more useful to hopefully more and more applications. And soon, and then I think it's time to close for one question or so. Soon there should be Git repository in Radicle Link to kind of close the loop. This does two things. For one, it shows what Git repository can do and how nice it looks API-wise, I think, or open for feedback, of course. But also, helps me to keep things stable and really forces me even more to watch out for this soon-to-be stability tier 1 crate, which is Git repository. And I think then all the building blocks for Gitoxide are present. And I was showing something on screen, but you could not see that. All the building blocks are present to really just push forward at a constant pace and implement the features that are needed, which is very exciting. Okay, no time left. I could go on, obviously. Back to you.
Thank you so much for, who has any questions or any comments? We can go over by a couple of minutes if people have questions. Anybody?
I'd just like to say this was a very entertaining presentation.
Yeah, for sure. +1 to that. Also, proper memes in the chat. For real. Any questions? Anybody? No?
If
Cool.
there's one more minute, then
yeah, go.
Let me just, when I heard the monorepo, like, I was of course always thinking, how is Gitoxide gonna seriously replace, did I say that, GitHub? Or how does, the whole server backend, this is what it has to be able to do. So Radicle Link, of course, also does that. And I'm always thinking about how this could be working and want to make sure that this is not somehow going to be too slow and not really usable. The good news is it's faster than Git is, and it's using less memory usually, and you can control memory much more precisely. And in one PR just this week or last week, we're thinking about how the server side could look like and how the server can keep its internal state up to date while maintaining caches but not too long, and how all that could come together in a way that is very rusty, very safe, so to say, but also from a database point of view consistent, without a chance to kind of break it because something wasn't under control or not well understood. And I think with this system, because it's kind of forces you to see all the details, it's possible to understand and get it right from the very beginning. So I feel I have a good grasp on this already. And with this system, I think you can have super efficient, high performance service that might even dwarf what's out there. Because as far as I know, libgit on the server, probably not really. And what GitHub does is probably steer the Git commands themselves, which has certain advantages, but also disadvantages, because getting movement into Git is of course quite slow these days, but getting stuff into Gitoxide is fast and easy, also because of Rust, also because it's early in its development. So all this can help you to not only catch up, but from the beginning overtake and go, find better ways for the server. And this is the thing that, well, I hope one day powers Radicle seed nodes. And, not just a little bit, but, you need this, you need that. You have ways to implement that or to adjust what's there because it's all Rust, which makes that relatively easy and straightforward. And that's extremely exciting. And, Radicle is just one potential user of this. There's so many more with demand for service. And it's just a super crazy, exciting field to be in and to maybe even write a little history. So with having that said, right, we all write history, let's face it, but having that said makes me even more, want to go back to coding and just keep at it, just so that I actually deliver on these promises. But now that I can imagine it, I have to do it. That's my problem. Okay, back to you. Thank you.
I love it. Great story. Make sure that you send me, we'll add all the Gitoxide links to the community call on YouTube so people can click through and find the repositories and everything. So send me that over Keybase or something. That'd be great. Cool. Okay, so with that, we'll end. We're a couple minutes over. Sebastian, thank you so much. That was such a great presentation. Really cool story. Really excited that we have that recorded too, so everybody can kind of see the Gitoxide story, all of that. So really thanks. Really great time, guys. Thanks everybody for joining. We will see you guys in a month. Hopefully we'll have some of the stream issues resolved by then. We're kind of moving to like a new stream infrastructure, so that should be good. But cool, you can find us on Discord. Everybody mentioned where they're chatting, and on Twitter as well, @Radicle. And we'll end there. Cool. Thanks everybody for joining. See you in a month.
Tracy.
See you on the internet.
Thank you.
Bye.